You ready? Okay, Mr. Knopfler,
Wait a
your
minute. Oh.
response.
Okay.
A moment ago, the question was asked and answered regarding terms here in Port Orange, and I believe it was answered as 2 terms, 8 years. Incorrect. The current charter says 3 consecutive terms. 3 consecutive terms. 3 times 4 would be 12. Now, what one gentleman has taken that to mean in Port Orange is that if you sit out for 2 years, you come back for another 12. That is a flaw in our charter that I believe needs to be changed. The word consecutive needs to go away. If we're going to go with 3 terms, 12 years, that's it, you're done. I personally believe 12 is too many. If 8 is good enough for our governor, for our president, it should be just fine for our mayor here in Port Orange. And Henry, that was really the comment that I had.
Thank you.
I couldn't remember.
I appreciate it. Now, Mr. Green, we're going to go back to the water thing for just a minute. If we can try to keep the answers a little bit brief, because we have a lot of ground to cover. As the water thing was unfolding, and there was a lot of coverage in the News Journal and the radio, and it was pretty much a big story. There were some that thought that, for example, Volusia tax reform, thought that Mr. Knopfler was just golden and challenging the status quo and government to the point where he served on a special committee and looking at the issue and ways to, to move forward. While others were praising Mr. Knopfler as a citizen's watchdog, others were saying he was a bully and a troublemaker and looking out for his own political gain. Mr. Green, you said that you thought the water thing was a mistake, some kind of, some reading error or something. How would you characterize the rights of citizens to speak up, and whether do you feel like in this case it was taken too far, or it was accurate, or where do you stand with that, Mr. Knopfler?
And again, I've known of Ted for quite some time, and he is very vocal. Does he have valid points? Absolutely. If having citizens involved in noticing things that may or may not be correct, I think that's welcome. Do I still think it's an error? Yeah, it was a billing error. That's what happened. It's not. There's no scandal.
No, but I mean, his reaction to it.
So again, Ted is obviously outspoken. Is he right or wrong? I'm not going to comment on any of that. Obviously, presentation has a lot to do with things and how you talk to people, and that's one of the things I'm going to bring to the city. I'm going to bring respect to the citizens, and I'm not going to call people who work for me peg legs and disregard and disparage people who work for me. These are the very people who we are relying on to do a good job, and so communicating with people is very important to me.
Pass over to Mr. Knopfler. Ted, I tried to walk a balancing line with compliment and otherwise. How did you see your role during that tenure in holding government responsible? Were you on the money, or do you feel like maybe you went too far, or maybe not enough?
No, I believe I was spot on. We have something in this country called the First Amendment. And that First Amendment is there not to talk about the weather or baseball scores. It's to talk about very bitter, acrimonious differences we have in our society. And hopefully we can settle it verbally, as opposed to settling it perhaps with guns or bombs. So that First Amendment is sacrosanct. And I make no apologies for the criticism I level. And it was spot on. Look at all the collapse we've had since. All of that was there. The rot was there then. It's just people didn't want to hear it at that point in time. But now there's no denying the rot. And by the way, let me say that I will echo Lance Green's comment a moment ago. And I will not call people cripples from the dais or asses from the dais. Nor will I tell people to get their SHIT straight from the dais. So how about that as being my contribution, all of which takes place right now? How about that as my commitment to improve? verbal form, shall we say, in council.
Don, if you could pass the mic over to Don. I'll get it on that. If you will, in a second. Get on. Point it first. Mr. Burnett, again, you were on the dais when all this stuff was happening, and then when Mr. Nostel joined this committee, I guess, Citizens Government Ad Hoc Committee, and I guess some kind of report was made. But I remember reading or hearing comments from you, the public, about he was overboard and making it personal, and you were basically the target of all that.
I took some flack because I felt like, as the chair of a budget and audit committee that made no recommendations to the council in 9 months to change things, just by talking about some things, I think some of my criticism about what went on at the time had to do with the lack of recommendations and the personal attacks, but that's what happened then. Honestly, I think Ted was speaking off the cuff because it means a lot to him. And whether those things were appropriately said or not, it came from his heart, and I can appreciate that. But that's looking back. Let's look forward. We've come a long way since then because we've addressed an awful lot of things. And I think that when you address things the right way and properly, a lot of the reasons why those things came out was because, unfortunately, we were transparent with our garbage. And it was there for all to see. So as bad as that was, as bad at times it was at the beginning of my term, to have to start and see the turmoil that we went through, I think we've made sufficient progress in moving forward. It's kind of like a rock rolling down a hill. When you start, the further down the hill it goes, the more momentum it gets. And now we're starting to get momentum. We're heading in the right direction. And I don't want to go backwards. I want to go forwards.
Okay, Mr. Green, I want to give you the opportunity to rebut. You had a concern with what Mr. Nostel was saying.
Yeah, real quick, and I just want to, again, reiterate on what Ted's point was about being called this, that, or the other from the diocese. I can assure you it was not from me. I have not been on that diocese, so whatever comes from there, again, has nothing to do with me. I can't help what happened yesterday, but I can help what happens today, and I can help what happens in the future.
Stay with the microphone with Mr. Green. Mr. Green, are you happy with Mr. Johansson? I guess Mr. Casella didn't stay very long, replacing Mr. Parker. Some people blame Mr. Nostel for that, although I'm not sure that that's the case. What's your assessment of the new city manager, Johansson?
And again, I'm an outsider. I'm a citizen right now, and I look in. And what I see right here is I see cohesion. And what I see in our city manager is determination. And I see leadership in Jake. Being a military man that he is, and I think 35 years in the Navy, there's one thing I've noticed about him is he is absolutely firm. And some of the decisions that he has made and recommendations to the council, such as may it be taking down that reader file, may it be moving to the end of the bench, in a different seat. Those are the kind of things that he's implemented in his leadership, and I'm more than happy with the direction we're going with our city manager.
Okay, Mr. Nostel, Mr. Casella didn't last very long. It's Ken Parker's replacement. That may have been good or bad from your perspective. First, your response to that and your reaction to how you're seeing Mr. Johansson's performance in the first year that he's been here.
Before I do that, let me just go back and comment on this committee you keep referring to. It was an audit and budget advisory board, and I was the chairman of that. But understand that when you have a board, the chairman is not meant to be there making his own recommendations. He's meant to carry forward the board's recommendations. And if there was a sparsity of recommendations, you can look through everybody on that board. But let me tell you one recommendation we made clearly, very clearly, and that was that the city's bank account, checking account, checkbook, should be balanced every single month. Now that was a clear recommendation of this audit budget board. And guess what happened in this last year's audit? We were told that the city's bank account is not being balanced. Shame, shame, shame. You asked about the manager Casella. Manager Casella was a walking disaster. And the sooner the city got rid of him, the better the city would be off. You know, we talk about this form of government, this strong manager form of government. Well, there are a couple of buzzwords that come out of that form of government. One is manager in transit. The other one are lifesaver awards. Mr. Casella collected a couple of lifesaver awards. He employed a guy who didn't know anything about finance as his finance director. He was a failed city manager. He fired another failed city manager to be his utilities director, and he didn't know anything about utilities. So this manager form of government needs to be corrected somewhat. We need to pull some authority back to our elected reps. You asked about the last gentleman, the current gentleman, Manager Johansson. He and I see the world in a different light. His secrecy, his level of secrecy may have been fine when he was carrying the nuclear football for Chile. It has no place here in Port Orange. The latest buzzword I hear is strategic information release. That's in direct violation of sunshine. Once a public document is created, it's meant to be distributed if requested.
I can give you